I just found out today about the meeting.
Oh, really?
It's like degree.
Somebody invited me to go and I was like, nope.
I don't know how.
All right,
Officially.
I am the grand poobah tonight. I have my Victor hat on. We'll begin. Did anybody have a chance to look at the meeting minutes from last time? From the May meeting? Anybody have any need to review or questions or?
Did you send those out?
I sure
You're so
did.
good at doing that. I saw the agenda. I saw the agenda. Well, you had the, oh, is that the,
If you.
is that the
go to
minutes? Is that the link? Is there a link to the minutes?
Yes.
Because you would attach
the
the
one I
agenda.
sent.
You'd attach the agenda. I did look at that the first night.
Most of the minutes.
Oh, no, that's the agenda that I'm looking at right there.
So that's where we.
I can.
Yes, and I'm sorry. I'm not very good at going to the Google Drive, so
You are not very good at going to Google
I am
Drive.
not at all. I like file attachments. I'm old school.
Minutes, okay. I'll give you, can I send you the link to the Google Drive? minutes?
Yes,
That's the
please.
easiest thing
Yes,
I have.
please. Sorry.
Just gotten Teams files.
I mean, it should be pretty
and-
straightforward because it was there. Oh, there it is. Well, that was fast. Thank you. Yeah, and when it asked me to open them in Google Docs, I picked Safari instead. So I'm like, really?
Oh, yeah, we inherited that system, the Google Drive. I did not set it up.
I didn't either.
So, Audie brought a card and we'll pass it around for Victor to send some well wishes. Victor, who's our chair, is having some medical issues, so we're sending around a little thank you card. Or get well card.
We can figure, yeah, at the end, we'll just figure what we want to say at this point.
Yeah. We can all just write it.
Make a motion to accept the minutes.
Okay. All in favor of accepting the minutes as written? Anyone opposed? Okay.
I wasn't here.
We're
I was
there.
not either, that's why.
My-
3, yes.
My cousins were up from Ohio. so
That's right.
sorry.
Oh, gosh.
You said you had a
Yeah.
family.
All right.
Wow.
The second thing I put on the agenda was just an update for the select board committee policy. I went to that meeting and provided you a little bit of information about it. I have not written to the select board in response because I hadn't heard back from all of you, but I feel like there are still a couple of things that could be clarified in the policy so that it's clear what the expectations are. For me, that's the biggest thing is like, if we're gonna have a policy, let's make sure it's really clear. So I can just send.
Was there anyone else there besides, were there other committee members there at the meeting?
Yep, and I
Did
sent
they-
you all the link that had the video.
Yeah, I didn't watch that.
I think the select board was concerned about transparency of business, conducting business and making sure people are present. And if they're not present, there being a way to deal with that. And they seem to be pretty concerned about planning board attendance as like a highest priority, and talking about like, should it be handled internally with the chair if there's an issue, or should it be a select board issue? And then like conducting business outside of a meeting, I think it's like very clear to all of us that we shouldn't vote on anything or conduct business outside a meeting, but also there's no clarification in that policy of like, if we need to work on something and then bring it to a meeting to vote, is that now frowned upon? So I think those kind of clarifications were kind of what I am hoping for. So I was just gonna send a personal note as somebody that attended the meeting and would like some more clarification. I think Mark is doing a new draft for the select board to respond to, but I haven't seen anything on the agenda. And I don't know if you all wanna share anything else or know of when that's coming up on the select board
Yeah, I can speak to it a
agenda,
little bit.
but.
It's not going on Thursday because the TIF, which I hope you got out of there before that was discussed, or was the TIF first?
I did.
Okay, good.
Leave
Yeah,
before that
because
was
that was,
discussed.
that was apparently a very long discussion. Um, That is going on Thursday, and I think we cannot put these two together again. I think they were there until like 10 PM that night,
Yeah,
which is not typical for Topsom.
yeah,
I think it's gonna go the second meeting in June, but that wasn't like concrete. That was just what Mark said at our last department head.
okay,
So I would keep an eye for that agenda. That
Great.
was what I understand, and I think he is planning to try to write something that takes in feedback. So yeah, I would wait until you see it to provide something more, just because they might address it all.
that sounds good.
Yeah, that would be my comment.
Will there be an opportunity for us to take a look at the second draft?
It will
before
be
the-
out with the agenda,
Yeah.
so,
So it's
I-
not considered a final version then?
No, I think they'd be taking like feedback on it again. I think they tabled it. So like it basically is
Well, they
tabling the
voted
ID.
and said no on that.
Oh, I thought
version.
they tabled that.
Pretty sure.
Okay, I might have been misinformed on that one then.
Yeah.
And then,
I thought that it had been
We heard that
tabled
from
as well,
Rose,
but
so
that's
maybe.
true, we've all heard it from the same person, so maybe.
Well, you heard it from Rose and you told me,
I don't
so
exactly
if
know
you
all
were-
of the
if you were
ins and
there,
outs of
though,
their
we heard it from
functioning.
the admin,
Yeah.
so she could have gotten that wrong. She could have, because the TIF really was tabled, so
Yeah.
there might have been confusion there. So my understanding is there will be opportunity, and
Great,
I would say that the select board is usually pretty good if people are there
Yeah.
and they want to speak.
Yeah.
They let them. Planning board's a little bit more stringent sometimes. I think select board's usually pretty good with that.
yeah. It's hard. I know that it's the way it goes, but like to have public comment before all the discussion is so hard. It's like, I don't know if you're gonna answer my questions later, but yeah. So I'll let you know if I see that come up, but I think just keeping an eye on that and making sure we understand how if a new committee policy is passed, how it might affect our effort. I think, we get our minutes on the webpage, we get our agenda on the webpage. I think we're doing what we're supposed to do, but.
I don't,
Additional
I will
rules.
say, I don't believe our commission is the target of this. I think there's, from my understanding, from talking to a couple people, there's been some concern about, like you said, attendance, potentially other committees not exactly towing the line, so to speak, of the
Yeah.
town. So it's not our commission that's the target, but that doesn't mean that we couldn't be in the future.
Or that it won't impact maybe how we
Right,
operate.
and specifically doing business, not doing business, but the email correspondence and being
Right.
able to do that. And this is a perfect example. Let's say they revise this policy and it goes out on the agenda a week ahead of time, and it doesn't happen to fall within our meeting. So if we can't do business and vote on things, we can't go back and forth and agree, these are the things we'd like to make for comments, then we really have to show up at the meeting
Right,
and voice our opinion directly, because theoretically we can't vote outside of the meeting on what you might like to say as our representative to
Right.
them. So,
right,
I mean, it does kind of,
yeah,
handcuff us a little bit in that regard, but
Mhm.
maybe that's the way that, it should be, those
Yeah.
discussions should be in public. And it's
Well, 'cause
usually,
It was interesting reading the statute, because the statute gives no distinction between like the land use planning commission, which is super stringent on board members are not allowed to talk to each other outside about any work-related things, but then again, they have a staff that does all their stuff versus they're voluntary as well, kind of, but it just didn't seem like there's no step in like, okay,
our initiatives are voluntary too,
Yeah,
right, but the time we put in is voluntary.
Right, and we don't have anyone preparing our stuff to come to a meeting and have it presented and then we vote on it. Like,
Right.
we're preparing it and then we're coming and we're voting, so that seems
Yep.
like the major difference, and I didn't know how that, when the state statute is just very, because it was all public or municipal, I was like, oh, I was reading it, I was like, oh, that is really stringent.
so for the plan, give us an example, like the planning board, as a pretty high-powered board in any town.
Mhm.
I mean, they're doing all their business, most of it in the meeting, because you guys are actually reviewing stuff ahead of time, submissions that come in. So you're presenting it to them and they're able to review it on the spot. Is that typically how they function?
So they review it, so we prepare all the information, staff will do their reviews,
Yeah.
they prepare comment, and then the comment is given to the planning board. The planning board, they can review things on their own individually,
Okay.
and then they discuss it during the planning board meeting. Yeah.
And I will just add in a little bit, all municipal boards and committees should not be taking votes outside. This was just an attempt to kind of codify that, but that is just, you shouldn't be doing
Yeah.
that. We effectively work under that now. The Google Drive thing has come up before, and it has usually been how I've handled it thus far is if you discussed at a meeting that you were gonna work on something and you don't take any votes, it's fine.
Yeah.
But you bring it to a meeting and say, hey, we prepared this thing and we're gonna vote on it now. That's how it's been handled. But of course, they make it different. I don't know.
Yeah,
I agree. I think you guys have been operating pretty well, and that I didn't think of you when I saw this at all. And then, I'm sorry, I lost my train of thought there.
but it sounds like we don't vote outside meetings, and as long as we don't vote outside.
I
of
don't think
meetings,
you've been
we could
doing
review
anything.
things or
Yes.
gather information or.
Yeah, it's about talking to each other. Like, so we've started BCCing planning board so that they can't accidentally hit reply all, because that can be an issue. Because they're kind of talking about something they'll make a decision on, and that's more of an issue. The Energy Committee recently had voted at their meeting to write something in response to this policy. And they had verbally discussed it, and they had said one of their members was gonna write it up and then verify with the secretary that it looked correct. To me, that was fine because there was no votes being made. They had already voted to kind of have someone compile some verbal comments. But I do think it will be helpful if they can, make that clearer, because it is a little bit of a gray area, and it doesn't seem like the state has addressed, new technology in that way at all. But if you make,
No, because we do it the same way. The staff prepares everything to provide it.
yeah,
Commissioners or members look at it individually, and
Yeah.
then it's presented to them, and then they discuss it and vote.
Yeah.
So it's that step that we have of, we're the ones doing
We're
the
preparing
work.
it.
Yeah.
And so that's
Yeah.
we don't have the ability to not do the work.
Oh, yeah.
Otherwise,
Yeah.
we would just be using the meeting to do the work.
Yeah.
We wouldn't get anything done.
So I would say in the interest of this, we can see what
It's like a
comes
whole-
back and then compare what comes back to our original comments that we made.
Yeah.
To see that, if they've changed things and if
They
they've
clarify.
clarified those, and obviously we won't go beyond that unless we have a meeting to discuss it, but yeah, that would be good to see.
But I think it's okay for us to look at it and be like, these things still aren't clear. Because we need to make sure we can operate appropriately and know, and understand what that is.
Sure.
Yeah.
Hopefully it's a track changes
And
version,
for
so it's
us,
easy to see.
I think it would be
Changes.
the ability to work to understand where the line is, so we know it's voting, but knowing that working on documents and working on things is okay, as long as we're not voting on anything or saying, I agree, yes, okay, we all agree on this comment, we'd have to do that
Yeah.
at the
In the meeting.
meeting.
Yeah.
But that would be the only thing I see that I would want clarification on, because
Yeah.
like I said, other places, they're not allowed to talk about things that they're gonna then vote on later.
Right.
And that's different where we do, because we have to prep it.
And you're not making decisions that impact, someone's permitting. So I think there's probably,
Right.
yeah. You can also all comment digitally as individuals, just as an FYI, like if you see this new one and you want to bring that up, you can email Mark and tell him that those are your comments. It's powerful to have, this is the Conservation Commission's feelings, but I don't want you to feel like you have to go to the meeting to make yourselves heard. You can very much do digital.
Yeah.
And say you're a member of this commission and that's why you care.
Okay, great.
Okay.
That all feels good.
Yep.
Anybody have any other thoughts? All right, the natural areas plan update and our project request form. So at our last meeting, Eileen Johnson's Bowdoin College GIS class presented some work that they had done gathering data to help us update information in the natural areas plans that made the maps. And before that, we were sort of like one of the first people to turn in the project request form to the town.
Still the first.
And,
First and only?
so we
Yeah.
invited Sky to come and talk about that, and with the mind of thinking about like, are there grant applications that we could apply for to provide funding to move this forward if it's something that the town
Yeah.
like approves of us doing.
Let's kind of jump into this. I have copies for everyone, so everyone can kind of like follow along.
Oh, thanks.
So you can take mine and pass it around.
Like it's old school.
Yeah, we're still a little old school here, honestly. We like file attachments as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I understand the usage of Google Drive is great for committees, so.
Yes.
Yeah, I just to start, I should have probably printed off the policy, but basically I'm just here to talk to you guys about it and let you know where I think that you could add more information, or I think that there might be, you know, limitations or something. So I just have notes on it and I'll go through them with you all if that's okay. And, you know, if you agree with me, great, you know, we can make changes if we want to discuss it, that's fine too. Either one. And, yeah, so at this point, we're at the point where you've submitted it to the staff liaison has given it to the department head, and we're now working to come up with something that like my department and you guys both feel really good about, and then can be passed on to the select board. And at that point, you would have an approved project.
So we're gonna discuss it and then we could edit it
Mhm.
and then it would go to the select board for approval.
Yeah, so you would, so as of tonight, you would make edits, and then I think, this is funny in comparison to the conversation we just had. So I'm like, how does this work? So I think tonight, you know, we'll talk about comments at the end, and we should probably talk about them, you know, and if you guys do or don't want to make them, so then you have like a record of, yes, we like this comment, you know, and we'll make that change. So then someone can make those changes. You can send that to me digitally, and I think I can just let you guys know also digitally if, yeah, okay, it looks good, you answered all my comments. So I don't think we necessarily need to involve another meeting unless there's a lot of Discord here and we really need to discuss things. I don't want to make this hard for you guys. I know, especially because it's taken us like 3 months to get here.
Yeah,
Just
we're not meeting in July, so it would be the August
Yes.
meeting.
So, yeah, I feel like I have some comments, but I don't think any of them are crazy. Josh and I were pretty much in agreement on a lot of them.
Yeah.
And it's just about adding more information in a couple places.
Great.
So whenever you guys are ready, I can dive right on in. And
Go for
also
it.
you should go into it because there's might be a couple things I
Sure.
mentioned that you didn't too. But so actually Josh has the first comment because on the first page, that was yours.
Okay, yep. And which one is the left, like,
Okay, I can do it. I have it written down if you want to.
Okay, great.
It was his comment, so I wanted to give him the opportunity to have it. The main thing on this first page, I thought the rest of it was good, is I just wanted to discuss the build out analysis and kind of, I know it's something that's been talked about and I've heard it talked about in relation to interns. And I guess I just wanted to like challenge you guys to think about, you know, what that is actually accomplishing to do an entire town build out analysis. And if case studies might be more helpful, later on you bring up a certain subdivision that you wish had gone differently. And I think that this has been an idea I think you guys have had for a little while. And, you know, if it's something you still really want to do, I'm not telling you you can't. I would encourage you to think about if it actually gets you where you want to be. That's all.
So now I'm like, oh yeah.
Now you remember. This is what I was trying to have him do. It was his comment.
Yeah. I was just, it's only, the reason that it stood out to me is because doing a build out analysis seems like it would take a lot of resources. And like, if it's something that we think is totally worth putting the resources into, then like, cool. But I was thinking that like, it's like resource, like depending on where you want to put it, it might be equally effective. If we were to find like very specific areas in case studies, like let's say we have a certain GIS area and we say, here's a spot where we see, you know, there's a lot of like natural area that we want to preserve. And currently with the zoning, they could do this. And if we did, you know, if we changed the zoning a little bit, here's what we could have instead. And then you could provide several case studies, which I just feel like would take way less resources, but perhaps be equally as effective as doing an entire build out analysis of, you know, what the entire section would look like. That was kind of my thought on it, just kind of like thinking about like, how do we want to use our resources? It might be worth it, but it's just something I wanted to put out there for you guys to think about. Yeah.
Do you guys want to talk about each comment as Sky and Josh go through it, or tackle them all at the end?
I think we can probably, my brain works doing it as we go.
We do.
Is that okay?
I mean, as someone who does build out analysis for stuff we do with wastewater projections, there is a lot of work involved in trying to understand you know, what any, especially across and we just did it for the sewer and water study, but it was only in a smaller area.
Mhm.
To try to do it across the whole town and what it could look like, could be a big undertaking. And I like the idea that you suggested of trying to pick an area or pick a lot or whatever and say, you know, here's what it would look like, here's what it could look like. The advantage of the build out analysis is, you know, I think the shock and awe of what things could look like.
Yeah.
If we just let it to continue to go the way it's going.
Right.
I think we could maybe use okay, here's what's happened over the past 15 years, the data that was provided by the build out or the change in growth patterns that's happened that students worked on.
Mhm.
Say, here's what's happened. You know, if that continues to happen at that pace, you could be looking at this many more housing units in 25, whatever, 20 years. So I would agree that maybe something that's a little bit scaled back. And we're probably not doing the build out analysis ourselves. We're hiring someone to do that. And it's just gonna add some effort to it. That's my thoughts, but you guys might feel differently.
Yeah.
And I don't know, I think, you know, Victor probably put those, maybe not, I don't know if Victor came up with those terms. I don't know that we did a build out analysis with the last natural areas plan.
We didn't, and I think part of what we were thinking was like an update of what has been developed in the last 15 years since this was created in 2010.
Okay.
And also a little bit of that shock, like, I don't think people in town necessarily realize how much development could happen with our existing zoning. I have the document from last time from the students, but one of the students just did a build out analysis with the same parameters as they were doing in Gorham because they were working with Gorham.
That's right, good.
And I think what could be useful about some kind of map like this would be showing the existing development in the town. This shows the town and in our high priority natural areas. And then if it were built out with current zoning, what amount of our high priority natural areas could be impacted. So I think there's a lot of merit to having case studies, but I also think just like a draft map like this that sort of starts to think about like what kind of impact could occur on our high priority natural areas if with our current zoning,
Maybe we
I think is a useful discussion.
Maybe we
Like
just
maybe
use that
we
as
use
a,
the-
use that as a,
exactly,
you know,
exactly.
well, you know, it was done part of the students, it's, you
Right.
know, it could change, it could be different if someone else looked at it, here's an example of what it could be.
Right.
So
So
it's
I
already
feel
sort
like
of-
something like that as a discussion tool is worth more in my mind than paying $11,000 for someone to do an official one because
And then the
I don't
thing
know
with build
what that would, I
analysis,
don't know what that would get us.
it's never gonna be that way.
Right.
It's never gonna actually build out that way, so
Right.
it's really hypothetical.
Yeah.
So. Right?
I agree. I think just having that visualization that you just showed is really essential for people to look at that and say, hey, there's my property, and oh, that could change significantly in my vicinity. And so I think the impact factor is important. And maybe a bar chart won't do it for a lot of people, but I think it would be helpful to have that quantification of change.
Yeah.
Especially relative to our high priority areas.
Yeah. Which I think if we updated the natural areas plan and redid what the community identifies as high priority natural areas, then looking at the potential for development in those areas might be useful, where it's more targeted to what the community identifies as high priority and how that could be impacted. So I guess that's how I've been thinking about it, but that doesn't mean we have to.
So is it safe to say that we wouldn't really need much consulting time for the build out analysis? That it would be something
think so.
we can, you know, work off what we already have.
I think so, and we'll be able to have all of the GIS data from the students. Eileen and I haven't had a minute to sit down and sort of help make that transfer to the town, but that'll all be available. And next year, the student that did this build out analysis didn't graduate. So, you know, they might want a project.
Yeah.
I think that all sounds good, and that's exactly, I just wanted you guys to talk about what you want, and I would just say, describe that, say that you want to just have a really basic visual tool, and maybe you want to focus on case studies, you know, that would be my suggestion, is to, it just wasn't clear what you wanted from it, but from your discussion, it sounds like you know exactly what you want from it, so to just expand on that. And maybe in a different place, it might not be in brief description. You just might want to add that somewhere in there.
I love plastic.
I also love Dave.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's always great.
And that's why it wasn't meant to be, don't do this. It was just, you know, do you want it? And then tell us why you want it if you do.
I like what's a map where you look at the old one and then you slide it and look at the new. That is
Yeah.
helpful to me, bar charts. This is the graph of this many building permits versus this year's this many. That doesn't help.
I think you guys could potentially find like, you know, an area, as we discussed case studies, but maybe near a recreation area and say, hey, here's this plot of land next to, I'm not coming up with one, but you know, here's this plot of land next to this trail. Hey, this isn't under conservation. You could have a 50 house subdivision there. And then you could have someone create that thing that shows what it looks like. So you could just do it on a smaller scale with those cooler things. And I think it would still get people, but maybe not be as intensive.
And I think that scale is definitely like more relatable too. You know, when you can see like, hey, here's an area that's like forest connected to a larger forest area. And you can, you know, for example, you just show like, here it is turned into a subdivision that uses all of the space to create, or you could show, you know, if you have the right zoning or if you have the right open space incentives, here's the exact same amount of lots or even more lots. And then here's a little trail that goes on the side for open space. And actually it still connects to the other portion of forest. So we're preventing fragmentation and we're still getting the same amount or more housing, right?
Right.
And when you look at it at that level, then it's so easy to see, like, sometimes I feel like with the whole map of Topsham, I agree, like a very general map can give you the idea, but then also at that scale, it's kind of like, oh, okay, like why? And then when people go in and why does this look like that? Typically the answer is, well, you know, we have to make some assumptions, right? So it's kind of a little bit less, like, I don't know.
It seems like there's an opportunity to have both scales.
Exactly, yeah.
I mean, the students seem to have done some excellent work.
Mhm.
Hopefully, we could leverage a lot of that.
Yeah.
More than I ever expected that we would
Oh, yeah.
be able to do with the students' work. I think it's fantastic.
It was
Yeah.
great.
I will say that's actually my other note is I would just update this to have it be after the students, because you have a couple places where you're like, the students will do something and you might just want to add in what they did because it sounds like they did something really cool. Josh definitely sent me a link and I definitely forgot to look at it, which I will be looking at after this because I'm feeling a little jealous. I haven't looked at it.
It's pretty good
Like that
stuff.
would have been a really good prep, but I forgot to do that.
And then, you know, our meetings are recorded, so
Yeah.
their presentations are recorded,
Yes,
so that
yes.
could be something that you might want to look at.
Yes, thank you. Good point. Yeah, I want to look at the data and then maybe I'll see what they have to say
Yeah,
about it.
you can go to that section if you
Yeah.
wanted to hear about it.
Yes, no, perfect. Yeah, I would have liked to have made it. It just wasn't at a time that worked for me.
Yeah.
Um,
It's barely a time that worked for us.
It was good of you guys to do that. And I've done, whenever you guys are ready for my next comment.
Ready, when you are.
Which section are you on?
So I am on page 2, who are the project stakeholders.
Where our pages were gonna be a little different than.
Okay, sorry. I'm
No,
on who
we're
are the
still-
project stakeholders.
We still on, it's page 2. I'm looking at yours because you're like, you only have like 9 pages. or
Mine's
s-
single spaced
In
and he
mine-
did double paste so you guys could write
No,
notes
that's all
and
right.
stuff. But mine is the one I
Still
printed up
page, still
earlier.
page 2 for us.
Yeah. See, Josh, you made it confusing. You didn't. mention.
Yeah.
I would expand a little bit on the public engagement, like that you would plan a little bit here. And, you know, if you guys were comfortable with the concept of doing a little bit before you have everything locked in, you could mention that. If you're not, you can leave it as is, but those were my 2 comments here. Maybe talk about, you know, and you're not, I don't think, like if you say, you know, we might do public meetings, we might do trail walks, we might do such and such. You don't have to do all 3 if you just write, these are some examples of public engagement we would consider. I just think it would be good to just talk a little bit about what types you would see engaging people with this process, because I think that's really important.
Would it be, could we talk about what happened last time and that we might use that as a model?
Yeah, absolutely. Most of these places, I just am looking for more information, not necessarily telling you how to do it. I do think I recently did the climate action plan. We had 3 community workshops, and we did have funding to give people gift cards. So that did help, but we got good turnout at those and good questions and stuff. So I think some public workshops is a good idea. I did see you guys mention maybe later on. And also you guys are the test bunnies for this. So we will probably make some edits to this form after you guys have gone through this. So if there are places where it's super confusing, please do tell us. That, you know, maybe you mentioned an online tool, you know, you could mention that a little bit too, but just kind of that you're thinking about it and you, good faith, really want to involve people.
Oh, crud. How do I get back a comment? I hate Google, actually. I just like check marked the box and then the comment disformed.
Is it one of those where it's just like success?
I wonder if
Oh,
you can
can I
show
do it?
resolved
Undo?
comments.
Forget it, I'll just type it
Thank goodness it wasn't that really long when I saw you typing.
again. Don't hit any check marks.
Yeah, I think for public, you know, bringing public input, sometimes even just like a little, like, some things that we thought we might be able to do include just this comma, like, that's it, just like a, you know, just some quick ideas of stuff that, you know, you guys might enjoy, ways that you guys might enjoy, including pulling in public opinions and thoughts.
And I would say, I think the more work you do on this, the easier it'll be to transfer it into basically a grant application, because that was somewhat
Because
the
it's
intention.
basically your grant
of it.
application.
Yeah.
So I had, you know, meetings or community input meetings, trail walks, online surveys, or something online.
Yeah, or
related, online
Reactions
gathering
to
input.
maps or.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Were those all methods that were used previously?
Which you-
Not trail walks, definitely meetings. We had meetings with large landowners, where we got input from people on special places and, you know, in Topsham. You know, we had basically maps up where people could just put a sticky or, you know, where they thought were cool places or what things that they liked about Topsham to try to get that, you know, values, people values, because you have all the data, what the data says, and then you're like, how do you assign a value or a ranking? How do you rank that stuff based on what people in Topsham want? Because otherwise it's just computer generated, you know?
Another good way to think about it, when you're kind of trying to come up with those things, or like, it's like, think about your list of your stakeholders, and then like kind of try to think about, like, for each stakeholder group, like what kind of event would get them, so that like when you do different events, like you're kind of getting a little bit of like each group of people.
Mhm.
Like actually did the idea of the just doing going on like walks.
Yeah.
The trail.
We did, I don't think we did much online. I mean, it was a little bit different time. That was 15+ years ago. We weren't spending as much time online back
Yeah.
then as they are now.
And it wasn't as easy to do, like providing maps online is a lot
It
easier
was
now.
pretty much all in person.
Yeah.
Like survey 1, 2, 3 is super easy to use now.
Good. You guys are ready?
Yeah.
All right, so I think this section is what effects would this have on the projects, town air, water quality, etc. And I have a note, I think, so it's at the end of the 3rd paragraph, a revised plan would provide better land use options that would make it more likely the developers will include high quality open space in their plans. And my initial thing, just because I deal with this a lot, was, you know, how do you fix this? Which I think is what you're looking to figure out with the natural areas plan, is my guess. That's my assumption. I thought it could just be good to call that out and say this is an issue that we don't know how to solve, and this is why we want this plan, so we can do it in such a way that everyone benefits, and just kind of explicitly call that out there.
It's like win-win-win. Landowner, developer, and Topsham, I guess.
That's what we.
Now's the time to be
Yes.
optimistic.
Yeah.
People say that sometimes, they say win-win-win, and I'm like, who's the third? Wait, seemed like there was only two people on that. This one, there could be three or more.
The one we forgot.
Yeah. That's easy enough to add.
Yeah, I think that one was a simple one. And then whenever you guys are ready, I don't wanna rush you, Shannon. So the next one is a comment, and this is mostly, we made a note that this should be altered because this is on us. This wasn't explicitly in here. But it's what effects would this project have on the town's capacity for growth and economic development? And I thought you guys did a good job here. And this wasn't explicitly called out. If you were able to address housing affordability here, I think that would be good. It is a huge priority for the select board right now. And of course, just an issue we're having. And I think you get at a lot of important things here, but you know, housing for our people who have lived here for a really long time and, you know, don't make a whole lot, could just, you know, address it to the best of your capabilities, I guess would be my comment. I think they'd really appreciate that.
How, I mean, how,
Yeah. I'm
how
not
would
sure.
we do that? Because, I mean, I'm not a planner. I don't know how, I would think, to be honest, I would think high quality open spaces where people want to live, it's just gonna make you more desirable and it's gonna increase your property.
I mean, we have an ordinance that addresses this right now that's not used, I think. It's called the Development Transfer Ordinance, which allows you to, I don't know if it's overdevelop or put additional lots or get credit for putting additional lots in a place like in town in exchange for conserving
Oh,
land
yeah,
in the
that-
rural area.
That's cool.
But it's
We'll
not,
say
but it's never been used
And
in
it's,
15
it's,
years.
it's slated to be removed with recode because the density
And
is
it-
going way up in this area.
And actually, I did want to say, Audie, the point that you just made is actually like, that is like the point there, right? Because, and that's why we want to be able to think about that now, right? Because if this goes to the select board and that comes up, the select board says, you know, right now we're dealing with a huge housing affordability crisis. We're worried that, you know, is this gonna poorly affect the affordability? You know, like, what is the way that we said, we knew that this was a potential concern, and here's some ways that our plan actually does confront this issue. So,
And I'll also add in, it's okay if you guys don't know, honestly, you could just say, we're cognizant of this issue and we want it to be, you know, the consultant to consider this, or we'll consider this as we write. I think if you just call it out and say, we don't know how to fix it, yes, these are like opposing things, but we care about it and we want to consider it, I think that would be totally fine here, honestly, because
Yeah.
I don't know the answer either.
right, and but also from a planning perspective, like, we don't want those things to be separate, right? You don't want to say, because we have more open space availability, it means that only wealthy people are gonna have access to it. That's not our goal, right? That's no one's goal here. So, you know, I think we're all on the same page with that, yeah.
I think there's been a lot of interesting overlap of housing affordability and conservation and open space in the last 5 years. And so I think like maybe we could address it by saying, we see this happening, we're looking for ways that that can happen here too.
Amazing,
Yeah.
yeah, I
Is there
think,
a housing affordability committee?
no,
Oh.
there's not. I mean, no, CPIC's maybe as
I do
close as
not
you
want
get
to be
it.
on that committee, but.
No,
I mean,
it's
we
not
actually,
that
I mean, we
committee.
actually have two things that we went to address this that are already in there, the DTO, Development Transfer Ordinance, and our cluster subdivision requirement, which is the same thing, and what you talked about earlier. You got this piece of conserved land next to a 50-acre lot, develop the traditional way, it's gonna be 1.5 acre lots in the rural zone, R3 zone. But we could do that, so you can set aside 20 acres that are on the back of the property, up against that other property, behind the big ravine you have to cross. And you are allowed to develop the front 25 or 30 acres more in the same density essentially,
Mhm.
but you set aside land, better for wildlife, better for whatever. Again, never been used in the 15 years, so that stuff is already there, but it's not being used.
And I think that's part
So-
of why we wanted to do this update
Right.
too, was like, are there strategies that are working for other towns?
Mhm.
Or, that are like good ideas that we might want to implement because the ones that we have
Yeah.
aren't being used.
Agreed.
Exactly.
And that actually, that goes directly with my next comment, which is under, what concerns does this completion of this project help to address? You guys referenced the 715 Augusta Road subdivision, Halcyon Drive. As you know, one that was in the rural zone and developed as the 1.5 acres. And I just wrote that, this could be a good place to talk about, you guys potentially being willing to reach out to these types of developers. You know, that's a good one, since they're still pretty recent. You probably could get in touch with them and just say, hey, why didn't you do an open space subdivision? You know, is there anything that we could have done to make that better? They would be a stakeholder in this type of thing, so it would just be probably good to say that you're willing to speak to them.
Oh, yeah.
Another one that falls into that category, if you're, so we can remember, Shayna, is the Glades development that was done off Home Place. That was another one where they had wanted to do a very dense development, and there were concerns about fire protection, and not having a second access and egress out of it, expressed by town staff, fire department and whatnot, and police and whatnot, to the point where, the developer ended up doing umpteen different. I just happened to be, I don't know, was that, I guess that was it was back when I was on the commission before, because it came to us because they were looking to set aside some land, and they ended up getting fed up and just did the traditional. So that was a developer that actually tried, but there was enough obstacles to it that they just said, I'm just gonna put a road right through the middle of it and do 1.5 lots. Or that made it, was that R3? That might have been R2, but in any event. So and again, that's not putting anyone, it's just, it happened. It is what it is, but that's another example why we can look back and figure, why didn't that happen? Why? Because in that case, there was a landowner developer that were interested in doing that. And there was obstacles to it. So.
Yeah, I think just, noting that you're willing to do that would be great.
You guys know what that is, right? It's Home Place that connects into.
Certainly right near my house.
Oh,
I do know. I walked there before it was houses.
we have our next door neighbor.
So maybe a build out analysis of what that could look
Our next door
like.
neighbor now, our next door neighbors now used to live on, is it Home Place, the back one, or is that the first?
It's
Is that-
Brookside Home?
They lived
Place,
in Home Place.
Somerset
And they moved out of that development
before.
because their memory of that area and all the woods were,
Yeah,
it was just, they couldn't deal with the fact it was gonna all get developed into homes, so.
yeah,
Yeah.
they're really nice.
Oh, yeah, no, it's nice.
But, yeah.
So, one question, and this could, if this is like not, I just am wondering, does Topsham specifically have ordinances that negates that ADU accessory dwelling unit allowance that,
You mean LD 2003?
yeah.
No, we can't.
Yeah,
We are in
that would be
compliance
against the
with
law.
that.
Oh, okay, I didn't know, I don't
No,
know.
we have-
yeah, no
that.
choice,
I
right?
don't
Yeah.
know that we, like,
No.
also in the UT doesn't, it's only municipalities,
Yeah.
not an organized, but. So, that'd be interesting to see how that would play into.
I don't think a whole lot, quite honestly. I mean, if you guys want to explore that, you can, but I'll just give you a teeny bit. So we're fully in compliance with LD 2003. It's not as insane as you might think looking at it. Basically, it allows like an ADU everywhere in town, but we require owner occupancy. So if you own like a farm out in R3 and you want to turn your barn into an apartment, you can do that. We can't prohibit that. But you can't go above 1. It really only gets you 2 units on a lot. And it does have the owner occupancy. So if you're concerned about that increasing density, no, not a big difference. If you're looking at it as trying to be a solution to like housing, a lot of planners think it is. I don't necessarily agree with that. But if you guys want to add it in, that is your choice. Those are my 2 cents on it, yeah.
I know that people call and ask, and it's interesting, and, there's minimum lot size requirements And so then they're like, oh, right, this gets around that, but not in the UT. So I was just wondering if that changed, it opened up places where.
Yeah,
So
anywhere in
that's
Topsham, you can have one ADU if you live in and actually you can live in either building. You could build a barn apartment, move into that and rent out your house.
Cool.
So, yeah, we're fully in compliance, nothing more though.
Isn't part of it, maybe it's not LD 2003, but isn't part of it that you get an extra density if it's affordable? Isn't there an affordability compact?
Yes,
It has to be
Yeah.
affordable in some way.
their density.
Is that part of the LD 2003?
Oh, for LD.
I don't know,
Hmm.
honestly.
Yeah,
on
I
that
don't know.
one.
I don't-
There's some sort of
There is, I
affordable
thought there was,
housing
I thought there
dense.
was some
There's
bonus
an,
for
there's an affordable
affordable.
housing denses, you know what I'm trying to say.
Yeah.
But once again, that's another thing that isn't being utilized a whole lot. We see people who are doing affordable, I think, use it, but it doesn't really switch people from traditional to affordable because the profit margin is just so hugely different.
Does the ADU have to be like a long-term rental or can it?
No, we do not have limitations on that right now. It is potentially a part of recode. I don't think Topsham really has those issues, quite honestly. We're not coastal,
Yeah.
which is where I think you see those. I've talked to Tom about
We
this
don't have a
before.
lot, we don't have all the big lakes where people are like, I
Yeah.
want the garage.
Or, you know, Brunswick, where, you know, there's Muir Point down the street, or Bath, where you've got Popham and stuff. I hear from those communities that that's more of an issue for them.
Yeah.
Tom and I have talked about it, because I don't have anything to do with ADUs, he does, and he doesn't seem, anecdotally, when we've looked at like Airbnb, we don't see a huge lot here.
Yeah.
And, he doesn't seem to think it's
And you
an
mean
issue.
Tom Lister?
Tom Lister,
Yeah,
yes,
yeah.
yes, my best friend Tom.
And
You
can
live-
I
and Tom lives-
please
and Tom
reply
lives in Bath,
anything
right?
that we weren't? I just
Yeah.
don't know enough about it.
No, I'm sorry, we didn't mean to like jump down your throat, we're just like, no, we can't be not in compliance
No,
with that.
record it, we're in compliance, we're in compliance.
Yeah.
No, I just didn't know enough about it, so
No
sorry.
worries,
Just
yeah.
wanted to say, my ignorance made it sound worse.
No.
Yeah, no, sorry, we didn't mean to. Okay, great, that's good, and we talked about some 15 Augusta, and wait, where did my pages go? Oh, here it is. Oh yeah, okay, so my next comment, whenever you guys are ready, is, it's under the same header, it's the, paragraph that has ATV trails, snowmobile trails, its development constantly impacts our trail networks and some connections have been permanently lost. I was wondering if you guys might want to note that a potential partnership with the trail riders would be something to consider here, because that is something that I assume that those are mostly their trails, or they work on them, and you know, they're pretty robust.
It's on page 5.
So if you're,
Bottom half
if
of
you're
page 5.
considering those ones, it might
Development
be worth
constantly
thinking
impacts our
about.
trail network.
And I do think you could just say we would like to explore a partnership with them. I don't need, think you need to have, you know, a letter from them saying we're gonna do this, you know, just, we would like to bring them in on this if we can, or something, if you guys do feel that way.
They're on the news this morning. I don't know if you knew that. They did a story just about ATV trails opening up and the wet conditions we've had, and they interviewed the head of the Topsham Trail Riders, was her last name Little?
They seem like a pretty robust organization, so I thought it might be worth considering.
Does anybody have any objection?
No.
I mean,
Oh,
as
no.
far as I'm concerned, the
Oh,
more
absolutely.
partnerships.
Oh, yeah.
the better.
No, no, absolutely. They definitely mentioned that.
Well, and there's so many other examples of when trails aren't considered. And then they're open to the, you know, public use, and then takes, you know, one person closes it down, their section, and then it's disconnected. And it's, yeah, that makes it not usable and changes the whole.
So it's something that the big issue, one of the big issues, it's actually the legislature right now is the size of these vehicles. These are like size of small cars now, some of these, and there's, you know, they were trying to pass an ordinance to limit the size of, I think it's actually limited right now. And there's actually, but you can
Yeah,
actually
there's
buy,
like a
you can go
way.
right up here to Woody's and probably buy one
Yeah.
that doesn't, actually, you can't ride off your own property because they don't they don't comply with state law on the trails. And all of a sudden they start driving up trails and landowners get upset and close their trails down, so. Democrats.
No, I think it's something to explore, maybe not, you'll need to figure out how it would work.
Mhm.
I think
But I
we just
know
make
at
mention of
least,
I think we just make mention of a potential.
Yeah,
the
I
trail
mean,
riders and all.
I think when we're thinking about, like stakeholder groups, they would certainly be one.
Mhm.
So
I would agree.
Yep, yep. And it's just one out of many,
And-
because you'd also want to bring in like homeowners that maybe live
Mhm.
near trails, and they might have a different opinion, right?
Right.
But you want to get all of.
Sure.
Yeah.
You, I just thought of this when you said stakeholders, you might also want to list BTLT explicitly as a stakeholder, I assume they would be.
Yeah. For sure.
The next one is just really more of a like, just add a little bit more verbiage here, in my opinion. It's the it's the paragraph right after the one we just looked at, where it says encroachment on our unfragmented habitat blocks. And it ends with, it's been ineffective because our open space subdivision ordinance is not being used. I would just add a little bit in there, like, we want to figure out why and make it better. Just kind of hammering home, what you're trying to do here.
Makes sense.
When you're ready.
Yep.
All right, so this is under header, what similar work has the town undertaken in the past? And it's paragraph 3, public engagement is important to the plan. You get at this later on, so this is really just to add a little bit more. I saw this happen with the climate action plan. A lot of the public engagement will probably need to be from you guys, because that can be really expensive to have consultants do. And you were the ones who know people in Topsham, can make connections more easily. If that's not something you guys are willing to do, you should discuss that and see how you want to write it. But if that's something you're thinking of doing, I would just add that in here, that you intend to do it with maybe support from the consultant in the planning department, because that's what Energy Committee did.
You know, you could note as a specific way to do public outreach is at the transfer station.
Mhm.
We talked about that and did it last time, because, it's just some people use the trash collection now, but it's like probably one of the biggest gathering places of only Topsham staff, of only Topsham residents. You go to Market Basket, it's gonna be, 20% Topsham and 80% everywhere else, so.
And the transfer station was really, really good for the Energy Committee, and you have trails there, so
right.
Yep.
Mhm.
And maybe wildflowers too. Right?
here's hoping.
With plenty of rain, I don't know if that's good or bad, but.
And also the library.
Mhm.
Mhm.
Yeah, and you can put in your things, but just mostly noting that you kind of said, like, having the consultant first in public engagement kind of just implied it wasn't clear how much you guys were gonna do. So I think if you just add in like, we're planning on doing a lot of this, but like with support from them, that's great.
Yeah.
Are we planning on doing a lot of this? That's something I can add.
I think realistically, we would need to.
I think so too.
I think I wanna, yes, I mean, I think we can say that. I wanna ask the energy committee how they did it.
I'm happy to talk to you guys about it too.
Yeah.
There's stuff.
Yeah. I think we can take some-
I know I
take
went to
some-
a workshop because I got a Facebook from one of the.
Yes, yeah, just to give you, so they did 3 workshops. We did get funding to have food and gift cards at those. I created, or the consultant created a graphic for each workshop that we put in the crier and we put on Facebook, and Pam will share items on Facebook. They had their own Facebook group that they then shared through. The sign is a good way of getting information out. Mailings is really expensive, so we don't recommend that. Transfer tabling, they did that. Library, they did that mostly later on, because it can be a little hard to get those rooms. And the Don Russell room downstairs was big enough for them. And we can kind of spill into the hallway in those instances too.
The one thing that we
We
did last.
got an email list for them too. We started that early. We asked people for their emails, so by now we have like probably 50 to 100 emails for that.
The last time around, we did do a mailing and we mailed, I think it was everyone that owned 20 acres or more,
Okay.
I think was the threshold. And again, times were different then, and there wasn't, was the Facebook, if there was, people weren't using social media, so that was a more preferred approach. But it also means that everyone was notified
Mhm.
that is in that group, stakeholders, that they specifically knew, because if we were looking to make the changes to the zoning ordinances, the development transfer ordinance, the cluster subdivision. So we wanted to make sure we got input from the large landowners on how they felt, and, we didn't get nearly as many people as we hoped. We got maybe 2 or 3 to show up at the meeting, but at least all of them had been notified there was a meeting.
Mhm.
You're invited, we'd like to get your input. If they choose not to show up, it's up to them,
Mhm.
So,
Yeah, if you
so
guys,
maybe in that case, that might be one exception that where we would want to, because you're never gonna, some of those people that are large landowners aren't on social media, and may not even be driving at this point. They may be people that, don't drive by town hall and see the sign or.
yeah, if you guys propose to change any zone boundaries, that is mailing to every single person that is in that zone. So that's it's not to say it's not possible at all. I think in some ways that might be something that needs to be explored in Topsom. The rural zone is really large and there are parts of it that are really different. But that is something you guys should be aware of that comes with that. It's the most onerous type of zoning amendment. So maybe the next one. Okay. Yeah. So this is under what town departments will you be working with and what the proposed role is. One tiny word change, in the 3rd paragraph. You say the town would provide funding, and I understand you're probably referring to if it gets passed and they choose to provide funding. I would change that to could, just as a, more conciliatory type of thing. And then the other thing, and I do
Wait,
apologize.
I need to find that. Where is it?
Yep,
Bottom of
sorry.
page
Oh,
Page
7.
7.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Could
Could provide funding.
funding.
Yep.
Yep.
Or maybe you would want to say the town would facilitate meetings and could provide funding, because we would facilitate meetings.
Yep.
That's, yeah. The where's the funding, I think is a little less clear.
Yeah, what is a strong word?
And I get what you guys are getting at. I'm just trying to make it so that no one's catching up on that and going, I get it.
So we can still use will at the bottom that you guys will consult.
Yes.
Mhm.
Yeah, and that's just with the funding one, because that's a little sensitive right now.
Yeah.
And then the other thing, and I do apologize, we didn't bring this up, but you guys didn't mention the rec department here. Is that anyone that you feel like you would want to be working with on this
Always.
project? Okay,
Mhm.
great. So I would add that in and I can talk to Pam about that.
I guess we didn't want to put anything in here that would require to make anything onerous for anybody. Like we always.
So you want their
or we-
input?
Yes, we
Yeah.
have traditionally requested input. and
Okay,
Provided like summaries, but we don't want it to be something that we feel like we're putting on anybody's plate.
I would just write that, say like, we want, their feedback at all times, but understand they're really busy. And, would hope that the planning department is capable of doing the day-to-day tasks for us, something along those lines. If that fits for what you guys are thinking.
Yeah. And also, some of the funding that would fund any kind of projects on open space is like dual managed.
Yep. Yep, the rec piece, yes, or the open space piece.
Dually. How do you spell that word?
DUALLY, I think.
That's what I put, but it didn't like it, but I'm gonna keep it in there and try to figure it out.
Also, I just wanted to add, sorry, this is a slight departure. I see you writing all these comments. I think you guys are fine to take a vote tonight that you're going to look at these comments and respond to them to let Shannon know that there's are what you've discussed tonight, and that would not be considered working outside of this meeting. It would just be confirming notes from the meeting. Since we talked about that earlier, I wanted to kind of explicitly state that because we're trying to do things somewhat quickly for you guys.
You would basically, everyone would give me the sign off that what I added is what we actually talked about and agreed on.
Yes, that's how I see it.
This will vote that she will complete it as
Yes,
we discussed tonight, and we will just confirm it.
yes, yep. And then, this isn't really a note, it's just what is proposed role of your committee? You mentioned this might include some initial data updates from Bowdoin students. That would be a location to talk about what they did rather than have it written like that. Just noticed that one. I know there's a couple other places too, so I'd probably just do a sweep.
Yeah,
for that level.
Yeah, next one down.
Yeah.
Item 1 under please list the anticipated steps.
Yes, yep.
So we
I
can
wrote
show,
that too.
so we can
Yep.
show that we have
Yep.
already got the ball moving, really.
Exactly, yep. Say that you've done this and,
Well, I will say Shayna and Eileen and her students have got the ball moving.
you guys voted to have them do
Yeah,
it,
that's
right?
right.
Yeah.
We attended the presentation.
Yeah. Okay, so my next one is onto this list, and I do have some notes on this, so starting with number 2, this one isn't a big one. I think. Okay, we didn't get to this part yet, but I'm going to make a comment that you should, well, you already have a little bit, but basically, so you say the Commission and Planning Office will identify potential funding sources. I thought you might want to call that refine, because you already have some listed and we would be looking at them and figuring out which ones are the right fit. But I guess if we're also looking for other ones, maybe you'd want to say identify and then refine. Just, I did think that was the right, because the next one is apply for grants. And I was like, well, we probably would want to figure out which ones are right. Sorry, I feel like I lost the ball on that one. I hope that made sense.
Mhm.
And then, the next one is pretty simple. I think bullets 3 and 4 should be switched because I think you'll want to refine your scope of work prior to applying for grants. Sorry. And if I go too fast, Shanna, just tell me. I'm good. Number 3, apply for grants. The commission could write part of the grant application. Did you guys mean you would write like the initial part and then we would go over it? I felt like I wasn't completely clear that's not a problem for us to do that. But you say the commission could write part of the grant application. We'll probably need 8 to 12 hours of planning staff time to finalize and submit the grant. So if you're feeling like you want to write it with planning, just say that because it's unclear exactly who's writing it there. I'm happy.
don't think we knew what to ask for.
Yeah, that's
How
fine.
about the commission will work with the planning staff to develop the grant application, and we would expect 8 to 12 hours of planning staff time for that assistant as we work with them, something to that effect.
Yeah, that sounds great to me. And I do want to say, I didn't say this at the beginning, I should have, I appreciate you guys trying to keep us from having to do any work in this. We will just have to do work if we're managing this for you. And that's why this policy was made, so that you can write it all out and then the select board can say, yeah, this is a good usage of your time and we'll add it to our workload. So you can list us in here as, supporting you, just make it clear what it is so we can all make a, informed decision of what that is. But I don't think that's ridiculous and that's fine.
This guy's not gonna be like, nope.
I mean, and the whole thing is a lot of this is already, I think you're getting close to having a grant application. You've done a lot of the work here. That was some of the intention behind this form, so that you have things listed out. And I think that won't be that.
You a grant application writer, Audie? No. You might be though.
There we go. There we have our writer right there. All right. And you guys, did you get monetary quotes to give you the 38 to 40,000? Okay.
Years ago.
Years ago, you might want to add a bit more to that, honestly. The climate action plan had a $50,000 grant. And so if you want to take a look at that and get an idea of, you know, and then the bike ped just got 69,000 to do complete streets. So it keeps going up. And I just think it's better to be realistic than, but you could also talk about how you could include certain things, you know, and you'd be willing to look at that too, having tiers of focus as well. Because I know grant funding is not as easy to come by these days.
I think we had dropped it a little bit because we were gonna have the Bowdoin students do the GIS, because we originally were talking 50, I thought. Maybe,
Yeah.
I'd have to look at the
I
minutes.
think the 38, whatever,
35.
If you guys,
the 35,800 was the initial RF, like the initial amount that we got quoted when we first started thinking about doing this.
I mean, based on what you've seen, I mean, should we put in 50 to 75,000? I guess we didn't want it to be so high that
Yeah,
the select
I
board
think-
weren't in favor of it, but
And we also
we'd
thought
work with
we
what
might
we
have to
had.
put some,
but-
like, request in the budget, like if we
Mhm.
get so much, could the town pay a certain amount?
Yeah.
Out of our money that we already have.
True, yeah, so,
from some of
yeah,
our-
we would need more than 35 to 40, we just would get some grants to.
okay, so
the
I would,
majority.
I would make that clear here, say, you know, we expect this to maybe cost this much, you know, we would not ask for more than this or something along those lines. I don't know exactly how you'd want to put it, I just.
I wanna say that.
No,
because-
yeah, I
Yeah.
understand. And that's why I said however you want to put it, because I just to kind of get what you said onto paper to be like, well, we're maybe looking at this much, maybe that much. I guess maybe I'll say, I think I clocked those numbers as seeming maybe a little bit low,
Okay,
but you could also talk about, you know, this much, maybe for this much, if we want to do this, that. I understand that's hard to do without
Actually
having experience and all of that, and I don't feel like I have quite enough for you. To give you really good
Anybody-
information on that.
Any other local towns just do their, didn't like Durham just do their natural areas?
I don't know. That would be a great place to look, though, honestly. That's a good idea, looking at what other
I
towns,
think they created one.
Create.
yeah, yeah, because I know what the climate action plan is, I know what Bike Ped got, but they also were applying for CRP grants. And those are no match, and they both applied for basically the max of what they were and got them.
I can ask if my friend is on the Durham Conservation Commission. I'm pretty sure they just did, I think they created it, so it would be a higher cost than what we would have, but at least it's something.
Mhm.
So the climate action plan, you said there was a grant for 50,000.
Mhm.
Was that all that was spent, was 50,000? Okay, so
Yes.
there was no town.
There was
No.
in-kind staff hours, yep, and we got a few donations, Maine Sea Grant donated their time, and we got a little bit from MCOG, but yeah, mostly that was, yeah. That one,
I just don't know what the potential is to get, you know, can we get a $50,000 grant and not have to ask for any town resources aside of
Mhm.
your time and assistance and maybe some money for mailing or something, or.
I mean, I think we've kind of been approaching it as like, we have ideas of what we'd like to do, but it depends on what kind of funding we get, and so we would have, you know, like, if we get this much, we would do this with a consultant, and if we get this much, we would do this, like.
yeah, I think that would be great to write out that you're flexible about what it could be based on funding opportunities and capabilities.
Okay.
If you guys are, it sounds like that's what you are.
Well, just like everything, cost of consulting has gone up too. It's post-COVID world.
Carry on.
All right, 6, update GIS maps. I suggested you expand on this a little bit. It just seemed a little broad.
Do we really need that, but providing local data, how much of what we got from
I mean, I think this already
Oh, yeah,
happened.
this is our
basically.
Bowden's already done this,
I
right?
think the planning and assessor's office's data collection was already collected
Okay,
by
great.
students. Um,
You could put that up at the top of something that's like already been accomplished too.
It could also be incorporated to refine the scope of work. You could, what that scope of work should be.
Mhm.
Yeah. Cause it is.
More.
So number 4, which would now be 3, refine the scope of work, I just wonder if you could sort of pull into that description what resources could be used to refine that scope, including the updated GIS language.
Gotcha.
So going through this right now, I see that, so we're gonna refine the scope of work and you look at your Bowden maps and then you're going to look into, sorry, actually, hold on just one second. Staple these, which was just such a mistake. The page numbers, thank you, that's one. What are these doing? Okay, I'm on page 6, I need page 5. Oh, there it is. You might want to add write RFP after scope of work, because you say hire consultants. A step before that would be writing the RFP to hire said consultants. And so then,
We already wrote one, but we could say update
that's great.
and
Yep.
distribute
Yep, that's great.
RFP.
Yep. And so then I guess I just want to discuss the next steps, just so I can understand it, so I can properly discuss this. So you'll hire a consultant. You've had Bowden update the maps. What is the consultant going to do, I guess, if you can just tell me really quickly?
I think the things that we most wanted them to do would be to finalize the GIS maps for like the updated plan, like what would go out to communities for input and what would show up in the new printed plan. Give us help with public outreach, including like, could they create a story map that it could be easily commented on or something like that. If there was additional analysis, like we had talked about maybe a viewshed analysis or a scenic analysis or a build out analysis, like something that wasn't in the original plan, that we don't have the expertise to do. And was there anything else?
I think any analysis we want to do within GIS. So
Oh, like
taking
our
like
matrix.
public values
Yeah.
and matrix, into the data,
Mm-hmm.
that part of it. They were, that was a lot of what they did last time around.
Basically
and then-
to create a model that would bring in
Yeah.
the public input, the new
The
data.
Topsham factor into raw data.
Mm-hmm.
And then they sometimes will, be able to share, what they've worked on in other communities. The benefit of having a consultant is they've worked in many other communities and can share with us what this community did or what that community did as far as the end all zoning or whatever
Yeah.
you want to do for that sort of thing.
If they know of things that are working, that are doing
Mhm.
those priorities.
You want to have us list those?
Yeah, I
a
think
very
that there needs
concise
to be a
manner.
more of an expansion. I do
Well, wouldn't
also,
that be in the RFP?
yeah, it would be. Sorry, just when is the research going to happen? Because we discussed that a couple times in here, that you're going to look into maybe why this didn't work, or what we want to do with this. Is the consultant doing the research, or is the commission doing the research?
I think both.
Both.
That would be like the main part of this update.
Yeah, I think so too.
Yeah.
I think the way you have consultant will work on analysis. Maybe honestly, it should be, so if you feel like it's in the RFP and it's there, maybe you should bring it down to, we'll work. Sorry, trying to get this, and I know we're hitting up on 7.
Do we have much else to
Uh,
cover?
just some updates. Might not be bad to have a few minutes to do that.
I mean, we could just list in here, if it's important to the select board, what are the primary, which is, like you said, it's the RFP, but what we think we have already developed a draft RFP. What we think that the primary objectives of, the consultant will be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, these are the things, and we would be working closely with them and with staff on those. I mean, it's kind of listed there already, but maybe in a more, indent a bullet and put like the 4 or 5 things.
Yeah, you could totally do multiple, you could do an indented bullet there if you wanted to. I do think, the reason I brought it up is just the chronology of it, really. So you're gonna hire the consultant, is the first thing you're going to do research and present other towns, and then they're gonna do analysis. And then they're gonna do public engagement, and then they're gonna do analysis. I just think you would wanna be clear on what that timeline looks like. I don't think you don't need to say a lot, honestly. You would just want to know like what's going to happen first, and then what that will lead into, and when that will lead into, because it seems like it would be research, public engagement, analysis, maybe more public engagement, and then finalization of like implementation strategies. And then you would get down to 10, which you guys kind of get at, but I was kind of struggling a little bit with the timing of those. So I would maybe 7 through 9. My suggestion is to just think a little bit more of how one leads into another chronology wise. Because I think that'll just because this will be your work plan going forward too. So it'll be, okay, we're on this one, we're doing research right now, and then you're going to move into this. So that's my suggestion there. Yeah, I don't actually know if you need to do a whole lot of information. I was mostly just concerned with what comes before what there. And then for 9, you write, the planning office will need to review. Josh and I both would like to be part of that process of the implementation strategies, just because they would most likely be land use related.
Yeah.
You mean 10?
We are very invested.
I see it under 9, develop revised and new implementation strategies.
Maybe I'll
Oh,
add a new bullet.
I had you add a new bullet, my apologies.
Yeah, when we said planning office, I think our intent was that.
And I
Both
didn't
you
know
guys.
if that was an instance of
Yeah.
where you didn't want to overburden us and you were like, we'll create it and you'll just need to review. We would just like to be part of it, that's all.
Sure.
I think most.
So you want to be part of it rather than just reviewing?
Yes.
Okay,
Yeah.
So, okay, I got you. Consultants, commission, and planning office.
Yep.
Okay.
I think the rest of this looks really good. Honestly, my only comment is the workshop draft with the planning board. I would separate out that you will discuss implementation strategies that have to do with zoning amendments in a workshop with planning board, just because I don't think the entirety of the plan would be within the purview of a planning board workshop. But I do completely understand you guys wanting to go to them and say, hey, we're going to propose these 3 things as implementation strategies that are zoning amendments. What do you think of this? I just would add a little bit more information there. Or I would refine it a little bit. All right, so that's it for the list. What is the estimated cost of bringing this project to full implementation? I would just repeat, when under 5, we said, well, maybe this is what it'll cost. Maybe this was a little grant. Maybe this is where you get into it more a little bit. What you guys want to talk about there? I had just expand on this a little bit. That was what my comment was. And then my next comment is, oh, sorry, if you're not ready.
I'm good.
Will this project require long-term financial obligations? This was something that came up with the climate action plan, a concern about voting in a plan that would require finances every year. This project would require long-term financial implementation cost money. I would just make that clear that you would be in charge of you would want to be in charge of implementation, and you would come to like the select board to request funds for certain projects, because that's what they ended up liking for the climate action plan. And I think that's a good process going forward, but.
And that's also just admitting that's saying that it's going to be like actionable after, you don't want to create a plan and then we just stick it on our planning shelf and then the end, right? You want the town to actually like continue to put resources into actually making it happen.
I think we weren't sure how to say that it would include recommendations that people wouldn't have to act on. You know what I mean? Like, it would be, I think, saying that we would come to the select board to request funds for projects that would have a cost
Mhm.
is a good way of saying
Yeah.
we can move forward with it or not.
Mhm.
And
I
that's-
think you
that's
could say this will be a guiding document with, suggested steps that can be taken. The commission will come to the select board to present implementation strategies and discuss, specific costs at the time. I know that that's what they ended up liking with the climate action plan, so I think that would go over well. And then we just have one more. It's for the last one. What sources of potential funding have been identified? I would start with grants, and I would probably make a bullet list. It just shows that you've looked elsewhere. I know the budget, they've really tried not to increase it in previous years. So I'm not saying that you can't get money for this. I'm also not saying if you can, I really do not know. I think if you start with, we have looked at grants, these are what they are, would be a good way to go there. And then at the end, if we can't get grants to cover all of this, we would, request that it be considered during the budget cycle.
Which looks like a little bit of basically just a switch. Because right now it's kind of just like the town's gonna pay for it, but maybe we'd also consider grants. Probably gonna start with grants, and then if it doesn't cover it, we'd ask the town, help us with the rest of it.
And that is it. Thank you for your patience, guys. I know that was a lot.
Make a motion that Shane has taken great notes and that she should update this and then we can review it outside of the meeting to confirm that they're in agreement with what we all heard and discussed at this meeting.
Righty. Ooh, I want to make sure this is saved.
I took a bunch of notes too, but you typed in there, so.
Take a moment to download this
Yeah, that's right.
document
Yeah.
to my computer.
Oh, yeah, even that suggestion made me break a sweat.
I had seen Shanna writing an absolute paragraph, and then she said that, and I was so nervous it was that one. It's like, no.
The darn Google, I don't trust it. Okay, it's saved according to my
Amazing.
thing. Awesome, thank you very much for your thoughtful review and comments.
Perfect, lovely, yeah.
Can I also move that we skip the discuss grant application options item?
Yeah.
I don't know that we have time to do that and give that justice tonight.
Future.
That's under the natural areas plan update part.
Oh, can I just add one tiny thing about that? Josh and I did look it up. You guys do have work that would fall under a community action grant. You could certainly bring that up. Grant funding is crazy, but we did look that up for you at one point and it did fully fit under that.
Good, that covers that item.
I think that's enough for
I just-
I
your.
think
for your-
that's why it was here, because I think you had
Okay.
been looking into things.
Oh, okay.
and-
All
Yeah.
right, perfect.
We didn't look into any of the other ones, and I think, that can happen in the future. We have like refined funding opportunities as an action item in there. But we had looked it up and we're like, oh, wow, that fully fits under there. So it'd
Okay,
be no match for you guys, I think,
good.
if it's still there.
Yeah.
I feel very unconfident saying anything about grants these days.
Yeah. All right, so under updates, I'm working on getting GIS data to the town for Eileen's class. And I put the PowerPoint from their presentation in our shared drive. And the video from that presentation is available on the town's YouTube page. I just wanted you all to know it's there. Tree committee meeting, any update about that?
Well, they meet on the third Tuesday and I can never make it because that's always family night. So June, my guess is June 17th would be the next meeting. I just tried to look it up. They do meet on the third Tuesday. So my assumption is that's when they're gonna meet.
Alrighty,
I always have it on my calendar, but I very rarely can attend. So, I mean, I'm happy to move forward to tree committee related stuff. It's just very difficult for me to go to that meeting, so,
Yeah.
with family commitments on Tuesdays, so.
Yep.
So if anyone else would like to go,
What, so what is this? This is
We're-
budgets?
yeah, what we're trying to do is understand what the tree committee, since the Topsom Conservation Commission merged with our tree, we used to have a tree committee. Now we have the responsibilities of the tree committee, and I think we're just trying to understand what things we should be doing. And what does Brunswick do? And thank you for reaching out, Sky, about
Mhm.
Bowden Ham.
Yeah.
Wanted to come talk with us, and I'm like, they might want to go to the Brunswick Tree Committee. So they may go before we go, to learn what they're doing, so we can, pivot from that and decide
So you
what
said
things we should be
23rd
doing.
Tuesday?
Yes.
Tuesday, I would double check and check the calendar. I didn't see it, that it's the 17th, but, and what time. But it'd be just great to understand what they're doing.
The climate action plan passed at town meeting. And any public comment, questions, other updates? Upcoming meeting, we have we don't have a business meeting in July. Our next business meeting is August 4th. Something to think about would be potential dates for invasive removal at head of Tide Park. I feel like they're better in the spring or the fall.
Oh.
And I feel like we kind of missed the spring window, so maybe we should pick a fall.
You nodding your head, you agreeing?
Yeah.
Yeah, from your experience.
In
Yeah.
the way, yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
so,
Yeah.
later plan.
Do we want to talk, want to talk about it on the August 4th meeting and try to,
Yeah, I think
Pick a
if,
date
if
for
we're
September or
gonna do it in the
October.
fall, it's okay to wait until August 4th to make a date
Yeah.
for that.
Yep.
That sounds good.
Yep.
Excellent day. All right, 7 o'clock on the dot.
perfect.
Can I make my own motion to
Please.
end the meeting? Chris is a
Yes.
second. So 7 o'clock adjourned.
Perfect. Thanks for coming, Eric.
Thanks for coming.